Hello, my name is Isisi Allthings, and today I'm speaking with Tracy Wells from Life Guidance. She's a very good friend and also a gifted psychic medium. So she's with me today to talk about reincarnation. This is my top favourite subject, and I've been writing a second book about it over the last couple of years, which is nearly finished now. So Tracy and I decided to do a mini-series about what we've discovered to generate an interest in the subject, as she's helped me a lot with my further research. So I felt that I'd come to Norfolk in Norwich for a reason 6 years ago, in the summer of 2014. Initially, I thought I was just exploring my place of birth, my roots. I was born in Sheringham on the North Norfolk coast of England, but I moved away as a young child. It turns out, though, that there are other reasons for me being drawn here, along with friends of mine from West Sussex, where we all grew up. So it started when I had a remote shamanic journey from Andrew, who is in London, and I'd asked about a boyfriend that I was briefly seeing at the time in March 2016. But as he tuned in, he was taken back to medieval Norwich, and he had various visions of deaths and unjust passings, and he said that he'd requested them to be healed. After the session was recorded, he sent it to me and he said, "Well, I don't really know what any of it meant, but I hope that you would understand it." At that time, I had done no research into my past lives and I didn't have a clue what it meant at all. But the reading was powerful, and I now know that it is about mine and some of my soul group's past lives, in particular here in Norwich in Norfolk. So today I'm going to discuss the earliest of the 4 past lives with Tracy, and we were looking at the 10th or 11th century, actually, weren't we, going right back? So I'd like to introduce Tracy to you now so she can tell you what we discovered together. Hi, Tracy.
Okay. Hi, good morning. Now, I found the main reason for delving into this is not just curiosity, but these negative energies created perhaps by suffering, betrayal or painful death, or something needs clearing and healing in order for us to focus to move forward on our journey of ascension in this current life.
Absolutely, that's right. So it's more important than a lot of people realise on the spiritual pathway. So the clues that we got now, as you are such a great medium and you're in contact with your guides, you basically had words popping out at you, which I just wrote down, didn't you? So can you remember those clues that you got the first time?
Yeah, we talked about what you had uncovered already, and I remember I told you in order to resolve past issues from hundreds of years ago. But my guide said if you had 4 past lives, that we needed to invest to see where the patterns were coming from.
Yeah, that's right. So can you remember the 4 clues?
Yeah. You had a powerful man in Kent.
That's right.
His name was William. You had a connection to a tapestry, and the last one was a huge leather-bound book, which was very valuable, they told me.
Okay. Yeah, there were 2 men, wasn't there? There was a powerful man in Kent, and then there was a name of William in connection with the powerful man. So two men, a tapestry, and a huge leather-bound book, very valuable, you said. Yeah. So that's all I had, and as you know what I'm like, I had to go away and research things. So as neither of us are history buffs, I don't think either of us knew what these clues referred to at the time, did we?
No, that's right, actually. But yes, this man was a cleric, and therefore he was not able to wield a sword. He was a person that commissioned a Bayeaux tapestry, which showed him with a long club in his hand on horseback, and he'd rally the troops from the rear. The tapestry was actually an embroidery depicted from the Battle of Hastings. And as Odo was at the battle in 1066 with William I, he was an architect and he had the Cathedral of Bayeaux in France built, where he then moved the tapestry to. And it remained ever since. He became an Earl of Kent after the battle in 1067, and he became the second most wealthiest man in England, next to his half-brother William I. Now, his chief residence is in England, Dover, Worcester, Dedingham, which is Oxfordshire, and Snettisham, which is Norfolk.
Yeah, that's right. So we actually discovered the name of this man was Odo of Bayeaux, and he lived from 1030 to 1097. So he was French. He was from Normandy, and as you said, he became the Earl of Kent. So he was a very powerful man, and that was the first clue that you'd given me, a powerful man in Kent. And as you said, he was the cleric. And then he had a half brother who was, we all know, as William the Conqueror. And he then, because of the battle with King Harold, he then became William I. So all this was matching up with history at this time. You saw the connection to the tapestry, and he had that commissioned, didn't he? From, as he was very rich, he had it commissioned, and it was huge, 70 meters long, I think. So it would have taken a long time. And unfortunately, they took it back to France with them and put it in the Bayeaux Cathedral. But we can actually see a replica of it, because I was looking on the internet and I found out that they've got a copy of it in the Reading Museum, and it was made by Victorian women, 35 of them, and that was in 1885. And so I'm actually quite excited to go to the gallery once it's opened, visit there, and then I'm going to put all the research links in the bottom of this video in the description box, so that if anyone else is interested, they can do a bit of research on it. But there's the last clue, Tracy, that you gave me was, well, your guides gave you, was a huge leather-bound book, which you said was very valuable. Do you remember that? So what,
yes, I do.
That book?
Yeah, and after the Battle of Hastings, Odo acquired the vast estates in England, and he occasionally acted as regent when William I was absent. So his land was in countries in the southeast and the East Anglia. I think it was 23 altogether. At the time of the Domesday Book in 1086, which was created to record the worth of all properties at the time, Odo was the second largest landowner next to the king. So we realised that this will probably be the largest leather-bound book that my guides have ever shown me.
Yeah, that was the real pièce de résistance, wasn't it? Finding out about the Domesday Book. Again, it's not something that I knew very much about, and I don't know about you, but I'd heard of it, but I didn't know the background and the history, who had commissioned it. So these two half brothers, as we know them, were absolutely wealthy, and they got this all organised in order to make a record of everybody's properties and what everybody was worth. And it was very interesting. So what's all this got to do with me, you're probably wondering. So the relevance of this is that basically I've, from my discoveries, had a lot of religious past lives, and some of them have been quite powerful, like this one. If I was Odo of Bayeaux, then that was a powerful position as a man. But then there's also been a lot of other religious lives where I've been quite in servitude, really, to the church, or even further back. So we're just looking at this battle and why this Battle of Hastings came up particularly. I think that there's a metaphysical aspect as well here for me, and that is about being a spiritual warrior. So, as I won the battle, well, I fought with my half brother there, then I also am fighting a type of a battle in a spiritual way to bring the rising of the feminine aspect in now, and to balance up the energies, you know, clearing all the centuries really of oppression of women in particular, but possibly all of those, you know, that have had a true spiritual connection, but they've died at the hands of crusades and things like that. So there are a lot of things here that we've found out together, and this was the first one about how our past lives can actually be reflecting now, and how we need to resolve those fears that we have of standing out, speaking our truth, shining a light. We can be held back, can't we, by some of the things that happened to us in these past lives. So did you have anything you'd like to say about how we can tackle those things today?
Well, I feel that if we tackle them and face them head on, and then we realise that that connection is within us, and sometimes the traits we don't like looking at ourselves as, like looking in the mirror, it's like a reflection of who we are. And when we write these things down and we look at it and we work the situation out, we can see why we're like that half of the time, you know. And if we don't look at what we're actually doing in our lives and reflecting our own situation, that is the only way we're going to realise that life itself is going to get sorted out, because we faced it, you know, faced it in our life, and this is what
That's
we've
right.
got. Yeah.
So we've been on this path for many years, but we're now being asked to do this specialist work of working through our past life patterns. So we've already looked at our childhoods and everything in this life, and realised that some of this stuff is coming from before, and it's maybe holding us back from stepping up, as you said earlier, on our ascension path. So once we can clear these, the important thing for us our message, I guess, to people that are watching this is that there's a great benefit to doing this together. And Tracy is available, you know, if you want to explore what may be going on for you. I mean, you might already have had dreams or feelings that you recognise, scenes you've never been to this place, or you know, there's lots of people have inklings about past lives, but they don't really know what they mean. So Tracy can help you, and she can ask her guides to give guidance on what needs to be uncovered, what we can work on. And then it's just lovely, you know, once you do the release and the healing work, you can move on. So thank you very much for joining me today, Tracy, and we're going to do a little series of these. So we'll look at another one of the past lives that you got for me next time. And yes, if there's anything else that you'd like to say to the audience.
Yeah, I would like to just say, just believe in what you're shown. Don't override it. Don't think it didn't happen, because sometimes the patterns happen in our life and we're expected to look at them. They keep happening and happening, so we actually look at them, reflect on our lives of what we're doing. Not wrong, I wouldn't call it wrong, but what we've got to learn. And they said once we learn these patterns, we can override them by, you know, looking at ourselves from past lives, from today, from everywhere, just looking at ourselves and reflecting on what we can do to make our lives feel better for us.
Yes, I think half of the battle is understanding what's been going on, as you say. And now for me, I was a religious minister I was raised in a religious cult, and from the age of 10 I was preaching and out there, and really some of my my past lives have been quite dedicated like this to the church. So I had to come out of that. I had to leave it and find my own path in a spiritual sense. So that was a massive undertaking for me. And knowing that I've had lots of religious past lives that now need to be cleared to move on has helped me to understand why I had this religious past life in this life, because it was to bring it up for me to understand that we have to become empowered as women, especially in our spirituality, and not be under a domineering patriarchal religion, for example. So that's really important, and that's what the subject of my book, my second book, is all about. My first book is about how I escaped from this religion in the first place. So I'll put all those details in the recording. But you know, just one thing I did remember, that you actually you were past. You had a past life in 1066 as well, didn't you? Can you remember what that was?
I had another one as well, which was, I was a man, not a woman, and I was actually in charge of an army, and I was in the front of the army with a sword, and as I went by, I got killed by, I was shot, and that killed me. And that was another one. And we have so many past lives come into us, and we dismiss it. But if we actually look into it and realise why that has happened, and we look at what has happened, we can then make more clear our life now, on our way and our journey ahead in life now, you know?
That's right. So that's fascinating, and we'll go into some of your past lives again another time, because I think you and I have quite a strong connection on the religious front. You have had a couple of lives as a nun, I believe, and so have I. So that's probably why we've linked up together to work on this. And I see you've got your cross on today, so that's kind of fitting. And so I look forward to talking with you another time, Tracy, and we'll look at the second past life that you got for me a few hundred years ago. All right, thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.